Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 10 of Birthday Boy by David Baddiel, continuing from chapter 56. Just hold on. Come on, Sam! Sam! Vicky was shouting. Just one more push. Yes, Sam, come up into the copter, shouted Charlie. Yes, into the copter, shouted various grandparents. Sam, reach up onto the helicopter platform in front of you, said DCI Bryant. He wasn't shouting, he now had the megaphone, which frankly was far too loud in Sam's ear at this now quite short distance. Grandpa's not coming, he called back. What? Shouted Charlie. He turned to Vicky. What? Shouted Vicky. Dad! Dad! Down on the ground, Grandpa Sam looked up at his daughter and waved. He waved. Don't wave, Dad. Waving is not helpful. Get on the ladder. No, I'm all right, shouted Grandpa Sam. Off you pop. There was a pause. Vicky looked at Charlie. Charlie looked back at her. Off you pop. Glenda suddenly grabbed the megaphone off DCI Bryant, who was looking very confused. Samuel, don't be so silly. Then Poppy obviously grabbed the megaphone off Glenda and pointed it back at her. Don't tell my husband not to be so silly, she said. Really? Said Glenda, looking at her, deadpan. Poppy looked at her, then nodded, then leant out of the helicopter and with the megaphone. Samuel, Glenda's right. Don't be so silly. Yes, said PC Middleton. Please be more sensible, Mr. Bailey. DCI Bryant looked at PC Middleton. You've got a second megaphone? Yes, said PC Middleton, through the megaphone. Why didn't you say so earlier? When that lot behind us were all swapping the megaphone around, it would have made things much easier. I'm sorry. No, thank you, shouted Grandpa Sam. I haven't quite finished with... He looked around again. Everything here. And then he started walking away. Everyone on the helicopter looked confused. Sam, said Vicky, you come in anyway. We'll come back for Grandpa. Sam looked up at his mum, stretched her arms out. He looked at his dad, and his sister, and Carmel, and DCI Bryant, and PC Middleton, and his three not covered in mud and leaves grandparents, and he said, just hold on a minute, and started to climb back down the ladder. Chapter 57, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Grandpa Sam! Grandpa Sam! Shouted Sam. Yes, said Grandpa Sam, stopping. Do you know what day it is? Grandpa Sam frowned. You know, I don't think I do. I've been on this island a little while now, and the days are kind of blurring into one another, a bit like they do between Christmas and New Year, you know, when you have no idea if it's Monday or what have you. Yes, I can tell you, though. It's the 7th of September, in fact, said Sam, looking at his watch. It's 5 to midnight on the 7th of September. Is it? Good gracious, doesn't time fly? Sam, shouted Charlie, come up. We haven't got time for a long conversation. No, that's correct, sir. We don't, said PC Middleton from the front of the cockpit. What are you talking about now, Middleton? We may have an issue, sir, said PC Middleton, pointing at the dashboard of the helicopter. DCI Bryant looked at where he was pointing. The fuel gauge was in the middle of the dashboard, and the needle was very much on the left of the gauge, and very much on the left, as usual, also meant very much in the red. Oh, my gosh, Middleton, get us out of here. Well, I will, sir, just as soon as the child actually gets on board. DCI Bryant turned round, fear filling up his eyes. Mr. Green, get your boy in the helicopter, now! I'm trying, shouted Charlie. Sam, come on! No, but Grandpa, said Sam, blocking out all the shouting coming from above. What day is it? Didn't you just tell me that? Something of September. Sammy, please, this time it was his mum. He could hear the tears, the pleading in her voice. Sam didn't want to ignore her. In fact, he very much wanted to go up into the safety of the helicopter and fly away. It had been a very long, cold day, very wet and a very wet night, and he was starting to feel not at all well. But something impelled him to carry on. He held out one hand, away from the ladder, clutching on with the other. It's 5 minutes to midnight, according to the watch you gave me. 5 minutes to midnight on the 7th of September. Oh, goodness, what is he doing? Why is he having this conversation? This was DCI Bryant. I don't know, said Vicky. I really don't know. But what day is it? What day is it? Sam turned his face up to the helicopter. What day is it, everybody? And then Ruby in the helicopter said, I think I know what he's doing. You do, said Charlie. Ruby nodded. He's asking what day it is. What's the answer to that? What do we all think? What have we all thought for a year? Is the answer to that? They all as one turned back to Sam and said, two of them, DCI Bryant and for some reason Carmel through the two megaphones, It's your birthday, of course. Sam nodded and then looked to Grandpa, who said, No, it isn't. Your birthday is the 8th of September. He looked up at Sam and said, I don't remember much any more, to be honest, but I always remember that, don't I, Sam? Yes, Grandpa, said Sam, who for some reason was crying. You always do. But it's his birthday every day, shouted the people in the helicopter as one. Grandpa Sam looked up at them. He frowned and said through his voice changer, although this time for some reason it just made his voice loud and echoey and powerful, not silly or high or like an alien's. Don't be so stupid. If every day is your special day, then no days are special. Sam looked down at his grandpa and nodded. But then he checked his watch, the one that used to be Grandpa Sam's. Although, Grandpa, he shouted, hang on, not quite now, but 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now it is. Now it's the 8th of September. Oh, well, said Grandpa Sam, in that case. He got on the ladder and climbed with apparent ease. Possibly the return to nature had been healthy for him. Up to Sam and gave his grandson a kiss on the cheek. The two of them hung there in the air, on the ladder for a moment. Happy birthday, said Grandpa Sam. Chapter 58. Nothing. When they got back to Noam Chomsky House at about 1 a.m, Sam and Ruby were given a hot bath. Both of them were extremely tired and pleased to be home. As Sam was cleaning his teeth, though, his parents standing outside the bathroom were not that pleased. Vicky, said Charlie quietly, we need to have a strong word with him. She nodded but looked unsure. We do, continued Charlie. He can't be allowed to do what he did tonight. Leave the house at night without telling anyone. Take his little sister with him. Make a raft and go on the river with it. These are dangerous things. He needs to be told off. Yes, said Vicky, but firstly, it is his birthday. Oh, Vicky, it's been his birthday every day for a year. Yes, OK, but it's his real birthday now. And secondly, I'm worried he's not very well. He's shivering and cold, and I think everything that's happened tonight may have been too much for him. This made Charlie pause for a second. Well, that's as may be, but the fact is that I think we need to know that he's learnt his lesson in some way. Vicky nodded again, but still looked unsure. Sam came out of the bathroom, smiled at them, and then went into his room and started to get into bed. OK, said Vicky. Yes, of course. They went into his room. Sam was sitting up in bed. Hey, I nearly forgot. He handed them a piece of paper folded up. What's this? Said Vicky. It's my birthday list, for tomorrow. Well, today, but for when I wake up, of course. Vicky and Charlie exchanged glances. Yes, said Vicky, a little uncertainly. Of course. She opened the piece of paper. Charlie leant in and looked at it too, over her shoulder. Inside it said on the top of the page, what I, Sam Green, would like for my 12th birthday. And then in the middle of the page underneath, it said, nothing. And then underneath that, love Sam. Charlie and Vicky looked up from the piece of paper. They looked at each other, and then they both climbed up to Sam's bed to give him an enormous bundle hug. Wait for me, shouted Ruby, running in from the hall. Chapter 59. Birthday 2. The real one. The next day, the 8th of September, that is exactly what happened. Nothing. Sam was woken by his parents looking down at him. It felt as if they'd only just finished bundle hugging him, but Sam had a sense that some time had passed, so he said sleepily, Hey, what time is it? It's nearly midnight, said Vicky quietly. Oh, OK. Then Sam frowned. Wait a minute. It was 1 o'clock when we got home yesterday morning, so how can it be midnight? Because Sam, said Charlie, you slept all day. You slept all through your birthday. Sam frowned again. He frowned firstly because it's always hard to believe you slept for a long time when you have. It takes a little while to adjust. But he frowned secondly because he realised that this was a brilliant way to spend his birthday. He loved sleeping, and he loved staying in bed, so he sort of wished he'd thought of it before, as a way of spending one of his many birthdays. But actually, it was the best way to spend his real birthday, because he'd said that he wanted nothing, and that included doing nothing. So being allowed to spend all day asleep in bed, sleeping off his exhausting year of birthdays, was perfect. Having thought all this through, his frown vanished, but then it came back again. OK, so why are you waking me up? You can go back to sleep, but we wanted to give you something, said Charlie. It was then that Sam realised that his dad was holding a box. Dad, he whispered, I said no presents, remember? Yes, said Vicky, we remember, but we wanted to do something for you on your birthday, even if it wasn't to buy you a present. So, said Charlie, we went back to the river. We spent a long time down there, and eventually we found what we wanted to give you today. 2 things, in fact. Vicky bent down and picked up something and held it up to him over his bed. This. It was his skateboard. Just one of them. The other 3 had clearly gone somewhere under the river, but the original one, with its flexiboard and trucks and red wheels, here it was. It was a bit scratched and battered, but if anything, that just made it look cooler. Wow, brilliant, Mum, thanks. And then, said his dad, holding out the box. Sam's frown deepened. He sat up, reached over and lifted the lid. Well, that's not true. He was about to lift the lid when a tiny furry snout poked out of the box, followed by some whiskers, and finally some eyes. "Spock!" shouted Sam, lifting the guinea pig out of the box and up in the air with both hands. And Spock looked down at him with quite a strong sense of, "Well, I was thinking of going on that raft all the way to the Andes, which is in fact where I came from. But having said that, I'm actually quite pleased to see you too." Chapter 60. Case successfully closed. And then Sam went back to sleep, because he was still tired, and because now for him the really important day was not the 8th of September, even though that was a day he used to look forward to for so long. The really important day was the 9th of September. He wanted to go to sleep before midnight on the 8th, and then wake up on the morning of the 9th to see if what he hoped was indeed true. Sam woke to the sound of birds singing at around 7:30 a.m. He lay in bed, which might seem odd since he'd been in bed for so long. He wasn't tired. He felt much, much better. The long sleep had done him good, and any poorliness he'd had from the night getting to the island had vanished. So why didn't he get up? Because he was waiting for a knock on the door. That little gentle knock that meant his mum was behind it holding a tray, with a special birthday breakfast on it. He was waiting for that knock, really, really hoping it wasn't coming. He wasn't sure how long you have to wait for something that you're hoping isn't going to come, before you know it isn't. And then he realised that he'd been thinking about it for so long that the answer had arrived. His mum was definitely not going to be doing that knock on the door. No, on the 9th of September, Vicky did not come into Sam's bedroom with a special birthday breakfast in bed tray. And neither were there any presents for Sam, or cakes, or singing of happy birthday, no trips to the cinema, or to Go Ape, or to the indoor climbing rock. And there was no party, unless you call Grandpa Mike, Grandma Glenda, Grandma Poppy and Grandpa Sam sitting around, drinking tea and watching telly. A party, in which case you need to get out more. Grandpa Sam, in fact, had spent the previous day in hospital being checked out by doctors following his time on the island, but apart from a bit of cold, he turned out to be fine. Well, not fine, as perhaps you will have realised. Grandpa Sam had a thing called dementia, which old people sometimes get. But physically, the doctors explained, he was remarkably fit for the man of his age, so they let him go. Carmel had come round to Noam Chomsky House as well, to keep an eye on him and make sure he didn't go wandering off again. While everyone was there, DCI Bryant and PC Middleton turned up. It was procedure, they said, to come round to check that all was okay now and wrap up the case. "It appears," said DCI Bryant to the entire family and Carmel, "that Mr. Bailey here, by which I mean Grandpa Sam, had managed to leave Abbey Court with a bag of things purloined from your son, including a voice changer and a super bright torch. Will you be wanting to file charges, by the way?" This was directed to Sam. Sam looked at Grandpa Sam, who was smiling at him. No, DCI Bryant." DCI Bryant made a face. "Well, it's up to you." "Did he," said Charlie, "swim there, to the island?" "It appears so." "He used to swim for the county," said Poppy proudly, linking her arm with Grandpa Sam's. "That's when I first remember falling in love with him, seeing him at our local pool." "Did he keep his trunks on that time?" said Glenda slyly. Poppy shot a cross glance at her, but DCI Bryant continued. "Yes, we'll be filing a report. Case successfully closed. The children found, and of course Samuel Bailey also found. Well done, Middleton." "Thank you, sir. For what?" said PC Middleton. "For finding the children, of course. And Mr. Bailey. I shall, in my report, be commending both of us." "I see, sir. Will you be mentioning, though, that it was in fact the children, Sam and Ruby, who actually found Mr. Bailey?" "Middleton," said DCI Bryant. "Moreover," said PC Middleton, "that it was actually Spock the guinea pig who found, or at least directed us towards the whereabouts of the children." "Middleton!" DCI Bryant started to do the zip gesture with his mouth towards PC Middleton, but Sam said, "DCI Bryant, you're flying low?" Everyone looked down at DCI Bryant's zip, which was indeed low. DCI Bryant went very red, but not before PC Middleton could go, "Zip it, sir." Chapter 61. He's always going to be here. A few other things happened that day. Sam told his mum that he thought it might be a good idea if they took all his presents and sold them on the internet, which, if you remember, is what Vicky did as her job. "Are you sure?" said Vicky. "Yes, please. I've got no room in my room. And also, I know this year has been hard, for you and Dad, for money, I mean." "Well, yes, but don't you want to keep anything?" Sam thought for a moment. "OK, yes. The binoscope." Vicky nodded. "You're thinking you won't be able to sell that anyway, aren't you, because it's basically two broken things stuck together?" "No," said his mum, smiling. "OK, yes. Anything else? What about your skateboard?" Sam frowned. He did like the skateboard very much, but he'd had a thought about that. "I will hold on to that too, for a little while." Then Sam lowered his voice and said, "But we have to have some money, because Ruby, she wants..." "Hello, everyone," said Charlie, coming through the door. "Guess where me and Ruby have just been?" There was a second when Sam and Vicky and all the grandparents looked at them, with simply no idea. All they could tell was that Charlie was smiling and Ruby was really, really smiling and standing with her hands behind her back. But then from behind Ruby's back they heard a tiny, high meow. And then another one. So basing his conclusion mainly on the tiny, high meows, Sam said, "The pet shop?" Ruby and Charlie glanced at each other, smiling even more. Then Ruby brought her hands around from behind her back, and falling floppily from her gentle grip was a beautiful, fluffy, long-haired ginger kitten. "Oh my goodness, Ruby, he's gorgeous," said Vicky, rushing over to stroke him. All the grandparents came over as well, pushing each other to try to get their hands near the cat. "He's stonk blonkingly lovely," said Grandpa Sam. "He is," said Sam, smiling. "What's his name?" "What do you think?" said Ruby. "Hang on." Sam screwed up his face, trying to remember. "What was it? Scroding-dong?" "Schrodinger, yes, that's his name." "Does that mean he's going to be here and not here?" said Sam. "No," said Ruby, cuddling the sweet tiny face to her face. "He's always going to be here, actually." Charlie and Vicky looked on, open-mouthed, wondering just when their children, both their children, had become so clever. Chapter 62. Once a week at night. Later in the day, Sam told his parents that he wanted to go and check if his skateboard was still working, so they let him out to play for himself. He took the lift down, pressing G, and trying, as ever, not to breathe the smell of wee. This may be a magic story in some ways, but that hadn't changed. He rode the board out of Noam Chomsky House and over to the bowl, under the block. He was, he could tell, a better skateboarder now, following his experience with the skateboat. It felt so much easier to ride, after all, than that had. He picked off and rode the bowl, round the sides, up and down, flipping and jumping like crazy. But he wasn't just skateboarding. He was doing two things. One of them was waiting. He kept going for ages, upping his trick level, getting faster and faster until dusk started to fall. Then he heard a voice. "Hello?" said Zada. "Hello," said Sam, skating up to meet her on the edge of the bowl. "I was waiting for you." Oh, right," said Zada. "You okay?" "Yeah," said Sam. "Where's the biggie?" said Zada, pointing at Sam's normal board. It seemed that, over time, she had started to speak a little more like an English kid speaks. Sam shook his head. "That's a pity. It was sick," she said. "Yeah, but that board is cool too." "Thanks," said Sam. Then he said, "Would you like it?" Zada frowned. "What?" "Well, I just thought you're such a brilliant skateboarder, and I can see your board. I mean, it looks cool, but it's starting to fall apart a bit." Sam held it out to her, his flexi board, with its shiny trucks and red wheels. Zada looked at him. But why?" Sam smiled. "To say thank you." Zada nodded. "That's so nice of you. Don't say no. I really want you to have it." Zada looked up from the board at Sam. It was clearly true. But at the same time, Sam could tell she wasn't sure. He remembered what she'd said about her dad making her old one, and how, when he'd asked her about her dad, she'd said nothing and just twirled its wheels. "Well," she said, and took it, putting her old one down. It wobbled slightly on the ground, not sitting there completely straight. "Maybe, but what will you do for a board?" Sam thought about it for a minute. Then he picked up Zada's old board. "Do you mind if I have this? I think I might be able to fix it up. I'm good at making and building stuff." Zada looked at him and then at her board, which her dad had made her for her once, in another country long ago. "Yes, please. That would be very nice." For a second, Sam thought she might be going to cry. He wouldn't have quite known what to do if she had. Luckily, instead, she said, "Do you want to come skating now?" "No," said Sam. "I have to go back to see my family, but maybe we could meet up here and work out some moves, like once a week, at night." "Sure," said Zada. Then she put what had been Sam's board on the ground, flipped up the nose, and off she went, down into the bowl, weaving and bobbing and spinning, and making that grim concrete place seem like a sunlit sea. Sam watched and smiled again, and as he had been doing for a while, he said to his board very happily, "Goodbye." Chapter 63. But even though nothing birthday-ish happened for him that day, only to Ruby, Sam was still not entirely sure that the birthday magic was over. When the grandparents left later that night, Sam made sure to say a proper goodbye to Grandpa Sam. "Are you okay, Grandpa? Are you all right to go back to Abbey Court now?" "Don't worry," said Carmel. "I'll make sure he gets more time in the garden. I think that's what he needs, to be outside. Isn't that right, Sam?" "That is right, Carmel," said Grandpa Sam. "Back to naughty nature, as I like to say." "You do, Sam, you do. Otherwise I might be off into the wallacking wild," he said. "Yes," said Carmel, "you might be. And then what would we do?" I'd have to send out a distress signal with a telegraph or a radio. SOS, SOS, only a bit of Morse code, you need to know that. What's that, Sam? Asked Carmel. Dash, 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 dot, 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 dash, dash, dash. Never forget that. Scout's honour. Or, said Sam, the boy, you could do with a torch, couldn't you, Grandpa? He was thinking of the light on the island and its peculiar rhythm. 3 short flashes, 3 long flashes, and 3 short flashes. Yes, I've taught you well. Yes. All right, Samuel, said Grandma Glenda. No need to rub it in. We know you think you're Sam's favourite. I do not think that. Oh, don't you, said Grandpa Mike. No, said Grandpa Sam. I know I'm his favourite. Following which, all hell broke loose. Within seconds, they were all shouting and screaming as usual. Sam watched as his grandparents continued to shout and scream at each other for ages, with no one telling them to stop, and he smiled, because he knew then that no one was going to think it was his birthday again until the next 8th of September, which made it a very, very happy 9th of September. Coda. About a year later, in fact, on Sam's 13th birthday, a strange sight was reported on some news websites from the seas around an island called Tortuga, off the coast of Peru. A rudimentary boat, or a raft, was reported as having been washed up on the island, and then a few days later, the same boat raft could be seen sailing off from the land, covered in guinea pigs. Over 100 of these guinea pigs, native to the Andes, were seen all facing forward, all with very intent expressions on their faces, as if they all knew where they wanted to go. Almost as if they were keen to see one of their own, to whom they were journeying out to meet. Early reports even suggested that the boat raft was being paddled by the guinea pigs with their tiny feet and was heading, although many disputed that this could possibly be the case, in the direction of the UK. But then, after the initial reports, the boat seemed to evade the sight of humans who wanted to explain the phenomenon and follow its path. The boat appeared, in fact, to be both there and not there. But I imagine it will turn up at some point. And that is the end of Birthday Boy by David Baddiel. Hope you enjoyed that one, guys. I will be back soon with lots more stories and lots more videos coming your way on my channel. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.